Hey, good afternoon. Obviously excited to get back into game week, going up to Arkansas, another 11 a.m. kick, playing a really good opponent. Coach Pittman's teams are always tough and physical and play really hard, and that's been no doubt shows up on film again this year. Coming off a bye week, obviously couldn't come at a better time for us. Gave us a chance to give a lot of guys some time off. We really kind of used it as a developmental week, poured the vast majority of the reps into the younger guys, either freshmen who haven't really played at all or guys who the majority of their snaps have been coming on special teams roles or in reserve roles. We really put the bulk of the reps last week of practice into those guys. Again, more development. Hopefully you develop some depth because you always need it going into the second half of the season. And it gave us a chance to give a lot of our older guys who have played a whole lot of football and have played the vast majority of the snaps this season. They really almost wasn't a true week off, but they got very few reps. Give them a chance to get their bodies feeling good again because this really, since going into training camp, right, bye week is about your only chance to get feeling back that healthy again. And so players had off Thursday, Friday, Saturday while coaches went out on the road recruiting. And that's the other benefit of bye week. You know, NCAA gives you 33 evaluation days to split up between your staff, and so we've used those days now. Got coaches out on the road, spent a lot of time going around the states, junior college games, high school games. Again, gave our players some time off, and then now hopefully they're feeling refreshed, recovered, and excited to compete because we're playing a heck of an opponent this weekend. So with that, I'll open up the questions.
Yeah. Is there any kind of update on Will and Woody Marks? Do you expect them to play Saturday? How are they kind of progressing?
No update. I put them in with every other guy, right? Gave them limited reps last week because they've played the vast majority of the snaps, and every single guy on the roster is on a day-to-day evaluation, and everyone who's medically cleared to play and able to play will play, and if they're not, then they don't.
Kind of follow up on that. You mentioned those guys get limited reps. Are you saying they were full participants in practice last week?
I'm saying there's a whole bunch of guys on our roster who have played the vast majority of the snaps this season in games, and after 6 games, your bodies are a little beat up, and so we either held them out of practice or gave them very limited reps. And that applies to Buki Watson, Jet Johnson, Jaden Crumm, Nathan Pickering, those receivers who played a bunch of snaps. I mean, I go on and on and on. So like I said, we used it as a developmental week. The guys who have not played at all, or the guys who the vast majority of their snaps have been in special teams roles, not their primary positions, we invested last week's practices into developing those guys at their primary positions.
Kind of looking at Arkansas, I know that you mentioned Coach Pittman's team's always playing hard. What do you see that they do so well, and how does he get so much out of those guys?
I mean, on defense, I think they're playing really good on defense. They have a lot of impact players right now. They got out of the transfer portal. They kind of rebuilt that side of the ball, and they are long and big and physical up front. Their last 5 games, all but one of them is a one possession, one score game, and if the ball bounces the other way or 1 or 2 plays go the other way, the result can be drastically different. But I mean, Coach Pittman's an offensive line coach by trade, so he's got big physical offensive linemen who come off the ball, and they play like a team coached by an offensive line coach. But they're playing really good on defense right now. Obviously on offense, KJ Jefferson is as dynamic of a player as there is in college football. I mean, you see guys bouncing off him left and right. His ability to shrug off tacklers is very impressive. I'm sure Rocket Sanders has been frustrated this year because he hadn't been able to go in several games. But you look at what he did last season and what he's done in his career, he's just every time he gets the ball is a threat to break out. They got really good length at receiver, guys who run well. Again, I think they did a nice job kind of rebuilding their roster. They got a lot of guys out of the transfer portal who are playing really good for them, and they look like a big physical football team on film.
Out of those developmental practices this week, were there any guys you or the coaching staff, pointed out that you felt took major strides in where they are compared to fall camp and maybe earned some possible extra playing time in these last 6 games?
Let's say, I don't know if I'd single anyone out in particular. A few of those guys have actually started to get some game reps. It just gave us a chance to give them more reps, additional reps. Instead of being a reserve D lineman or O lineman or tight end or receiver, well, now you get to run with the first string in practice. And so rather than run the risk of singling out one or two guys and leaving out a couple others and then, I offend someone, probably best to just say, not mention anyone specifically, but yeah.
Last season you guys closed out the year. I think you won 4 or 5 or 4 or 6 games to close it out. Just how important is it to kind of have that momentum in the second half of the season and have some success going into the offseason in terms of recruiting and things like that?
Well, like I said after the last game, right? College football is a game of momentum. Well, the same thing goes in regard to your program and going into the offseason. If everything's always better when you're coming off a win, right? And so when you can rip off a string of victories, it builds positive momentum towards everything else you're trying to accomplish in your program. Obviously, it creates positive momentum on the recruiting trail, but we're a long way from the end of the season, right? We're really at the halfway point, and so we need to focus on us, the things that we can control, which is how we show up every day and prepare and the work we put in, because we're facing a really quality opponent, and obviously, they want to compete and win just as bad as us. They've had, again, five straight games, or 4 of which are one-score games. They are hungry to get back out there, compete, and get a victory. We need to make sure we are just as hungry to compete and get a victory.
We've seen Bryce Pollock on special teams, and he got a little bit of time in the secondary in this last game. How beneficial was that, along with last week in his development?
Yeah, see, that's why I didn't single out anyone specifically, right? Because then I leave other people out. That's how you get better at this game, by playing this game, right? And particularly against the highest level of competition you can go against, right? And so the fact that he's gotten game action against another team's first string, right? You get exposed to a different speed and physicality and level of play. That develops you as a player. Special teams reps obviously give you exposure to that as well. So then last week of practice, right, you can limit some reps for DCAM or DeCarlos. That puts Bryce in with the ones. He's going against the first string offense. Well, again, that gives him more exposure to a higher level of competition. All of those things develop you as a player. And so you go down the second half of the season where you're going to have to get some reps from guys in your second or third string, all right? Hopefully that experience they've had earlier in the season of either getting in games or practices going against your first string, hopefully better prepares them for that.
What are the challenges of being the road team in an 11 a.m. game, and perhaps are there any benefits from that game being played at 11?
I think the challenges are obviously you got to go on the road. Everything happens quicker, right? Everything happens quicker. Okay. Now we had the benefit of having an 11 a.m. kick last week. Yes, we were at home, but we emphasized all week. We got to do a better job of starting fast on both sides of the ball. We did that. We jumped out to a 10-point lead there after the first couple drives. So we're going to probably follow a similar practice plan, practice emphasis, some things we changed up and did a little differently without going in detail, but just to try to emphasize starting faster, because an 11 a.m. kick gets on you earlier. Now, there's some things we did here at the home game. We actually came over here, ate pregame meal, breakfast over here, and walked through on our turf field before heading over to the stadium. Well, you can't do that on the road, right? And so the pregame timing and schedule won't be exactly the same as what we did for our last 11 a.m. kick, but we will probably have a very similar practice structure to emphasize you got to be ready to go as soon as they put the ball down, and it happens earlier for an 11 a.m. kick. But you don't have to sit around all day and think about the game or wait for it to kick off either,
Is Zach, you were mentioning how the bye week kind of came at the perfect time for you all to kind of work on a lot of things and stuff along those lines. Have you kind of seen anything behind the scenes, or what kind of makes you confident that you guys are really going to kind of, dominate this last back half stretch of the season? What's it been about your guys that makes you really kind of confident in them?
I just think we have competitors, right? Both in the locker room and on the coaching staff. Anytime you play a game, there's going to be a winner and a loser. And if you're a competitor, you're going to you're going to control what you can control, and that is you're going to put in the work, the preparation to give yourself the best chance to be victorious. That's the beautiful thing about sports, right? The beautiful thing about sports is you have to put every ounce of effort and energy and preparation and focus into it, and there is no guarantee of success, right? And that is, I think that's why people are so passionate about it, is because, frankly, you got to put yourself out there a little bit, right? To invest that much into something without a guarantee of success, not many people are willing to do that, and so. We got competitors on this football team in the locker room and coaching staff, and if you're going to give yourself the best chance to be successful, right, then you have to put that level of investment into it and preparation. That is what you can control. And so we have a building full of people who are going to do just that. Does that guarantee us success? No, it does not. No, it does not. That's why sports are something special. So.
And Coach, along those same lines, I know Jaden Crumm is a leader on that defensive line, and he's been, injured, and he's come back, and he's battled through some things injury-wise. But as far as being a leader, when the guys see him doing what he does, coming back and playing after going through something like that, they look at him as something they can be an example?
Oh, I think so. I think we got a lot of guys in those older classes just like that, right? I mean, they're proud to be in maroon and white. They love this university. They embody the bulldog mentality. Crummeny's obviously right there at the top of that list of people I would name off, but there's a whole bunch of others. And so, again, if you asked any coach if you could place the bye week wherever you wanted, where would you put it? Most coaches would probably say, right after Game 6, right halfway. That's where ours happened to fall. Now we got a lot of guys who played a bunch of snaps. They got some time off. Their bodies are feeling as good as can be since the start of camp, and now it's time to put every ounce of effort and energy and invest it into each week preparing for our next opportunity. And so that's what we have ahead of us. But guys like Crummedy and the rest will lead the way on that.
I know we've seen Mike in packages and things of that nature at an increased snap count against Western Michigan. Depending on Will's status, does it change the game plan if Mike's the starting quarterback, or do you think you guys can stick to what you've had even with Will in there?
I think there's things we do with Mike in there at quarterback that are structured more for him, and so when he's in there, we're going to play to the strengths of our personnel that's in there, and so I think it would look very similar to when he's in there any other time. Yeah, thank you guys. Hail State. I think we have one more available. We got one coach going out for a game here in a couple weeks. 32.